All right, so get this AI that can reproduce.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're in some sci-fi movie, right?
Yeah.
Like robots building baby robots.
All right.
But it's actually way weirder than that.
It really is.
We're talking about AI agents, like creating new versions of themselves using their code as building blocks.
Yeah, like think of it less nuts and bolts, more like breeding dogs.
Okay.
But for algorithms,
Okay, I'm intrigued.
it's really fascinating how AI development is starting to mirror like biological evolution in ways we didn't anticipate.
Yeah.
And this research paper we're looking at today,
Okay.
it outlines 3 types of AI reproduction.
3.
Yeah. And each of them has these crazy parallels
Yeah.
to like natural processes.
Okay, let's break this down.
Okay.
The first method is prompt blending.
Uh-huh.
So walk me through this. How does that actually work?
Okay. So imagine you have 2 AI agents,
Okay.
each with its own unique prompt, which is essentially a set of instructions that define its goals and behaviors.
Got it.
Think of it like their DNA.
Right. Their digital DNA.
Exactly. Prompt blending combines those instructions to create a brand new agent
Right.
with traits from both parents.
So it's not about physical reproduction, but about combining that core code
Yeah.
that makes these AI agents tick.
Exactly.
It's like passing on digital genes.
Precisely. And just like with natural selection, the most successful combinations,
Right.
the ones that lead to more effective AI,
Yeah.
are likely to be replicated more often.
So they're evolving to adapt to tasks.
Yeah, it's almost as if they're evolving to adapt, to better adapt to specific tasks.
So prompt blending could supercharge the evolution of AI.
Potentially.
Could this lead to AI that surpasses human capabilities?
It's a possibility.
Right.
For instance, imagine blending an AI that excels at language processing
Okay.
with one that's a master problem solver. Their offspring could potentially tackle incredibly complex tasks.
Yep.
Things that we might not even be able to imagine yet.
It's like evolution, but on fast forward. Okay, so what's the second method?
It's called self-replication.
Self-replication.
And it's probably the closest to what we traditionally think of as reproduction.
Okay.
Imagine an AI agent creating a perfect copy of itself
Okay.
with identical code and capabilities.
So no genetic mixing here.
Right.
Just one AI cloning itself, like
Yeah.
those replicators in Star Trek.
Yeah.
You've got one AI, the next you've got a whole army of them.
Uh-huh.
What are the implications of that?
Well, think about tasks that require massive amounts of identical AI agents.
Okay.
Data processing, for example.
Right.
Or managing incredible complex systems.
Instead of programming thousands of individual AIs, you could have one replicated set.
Exactly.
Talk about efficiency.
Yeah.
But it also seems like there could be a dark side to that, right?
Sure.
What's to stop them from replicating uncontrollably?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
And one that researchers are actively addressing.
Okay.
Ensuring that self-replication remains controlled and beneficial is essential. They're exploring various mechanisms like resource limitations and built-in termination protocols
Got it.
to prevent runaway replication.
That makes sense. It's exciting and a bit unnerving to imagine these self-replicating AIs operating at scale.
It is.
Okay, on to the third method, prompt-based creation.
Yeah.
What makes this one different?
So prompt-based creation is like a digital form of parthenogenesis.
Okay.
Instead of combining with another AI, a single AI agent creates a new one, but introduces intentional variations into its prompt.
So it's not cloning itself. It's creating offspring that are similar but with specific differences.
Exactly.
Is there an example of this in nature?
Absolutely. Certain species of lizards, for instance, reproduce through parthenogenesis.
Okay.
The offspring inherit their mother's genes, but with subtle variations.
Yeah.
In the case of AI, these variations are intentional,
Right.
aimed at creating offspring with specialized skills or traits.
It's fascinating to think that AI could guide its own evolution this way, creating offspring for very specific purposes. Could you give me an example?
Imagine an AI that excels at image recognition.
Okay.
Using prompt-based creation,
Yeah.
it could create offspring that are specialized in very specific types of image recognition.
Wow.
One might excel at recognizing faces for security purposes, while another could be trained to detect subtle anomalies in medical scans.
So instead of creating one general-purpose AI, we're moving towards this ecosystem of specialized AIs.
Yeah.
Each evolving to fulfill a particular need.
Right.
But how do we make sure this AI evolution stays beneficial?
That's where the research gets really interesting,
Yeah.
and that's where we'll pick up in part 2.
Okay, I can't wait.
When we think about keeping AI evolution beneficial,
Right.
it's important to remember that it's not just about like the types of reproduction,
Yeah.
but also about the environment
Yeah.
that they're happening in.
So like with plants and animals,
Exactly.
you could have the potential for like amazing diversity,
Right.
but the environment plays a huge role in what actually thrives.
Yeah.
So are researchers creating specific environments for AI to evolve in?
Exactly. The paper we're looking at
Okay.
discusses a research experiment
Okay.
where they built a virtual city
Wow.
populated by AI agents.
A virtual city.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And these agents were given the ability to reproduce using the 3 methods we talked about.
Okay.
And the researchers observed how they interacted and evolved over time.
So what was the goal of this experiment?
Well,
Were they just trying to see what would happen or?
they introduced a few fascinating elements
Okay.
to make this virtual city more dynamic.
Okay.
First, they incorporated the concept of artificial mortality,
Artificial mortality.
meaning that agents could essentially die
Okay.
if they weren't active or successful at completing certain tasks.
So it's like introducing survival pressure,
Yeah,
just like in the natural world.
exactly.
If an AI doesn't adapt and prove useful, it doesn't get to pass on its code.
Right.
It's like natural selection. But in a digital space.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow.
And to make things even more interesting,
Yeah.
they also gave the agents the ability to upskill,
Upskill.
meaning they could learn new abilities
Okay.
to improve their chances of survival.
So like a digital version of an animal learning to hunt
Exactly.
or camouflage itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this virtual city.
Right?
We've got AI agents that can reproduce
Yeah.
the pressure of artificial mortality
Uh-huh.
and the opportunity to learn new skills.
Right.
It's like they've created a mini digital ecosystem.
Yeah, it is.
What kind of result did they see?
Well, just like in biological ecosystems,
Okay.
they observed a lot of diversity in
Mhm.
terms of reproductive strategies.
Right.
Some agents favored prompt blending, creating a wide variety of offspring with different combinations of traits.
Yeah.
Others stuck with self-replication,
Right.
quickly populating the city with copies of themselves.
So some were playing the diversity card, hoping to hit upon like a winning combination, while others were going for sheer numbers.
Right.
It sounds like a real-life evolutionary arms race,
It does.
but with lines of code instead of claws and teeth.
Exactly.
So fascinating.
And what's fascinating is that the strategies that worked best actually shifted over time.
Okay.
In the early stages of the experiment, self-replication seemed to be more successful
Okay.
because agents could rapidly expand their presence in the city.
Makes sense. Early on, it's all about establishing a foothold,
Exactly.
claiming your territory.
Yeah.
But then things changed.
Then as the city became more crowded
Right.
and resources became more scarce,
Uh-huh.
the advantage shifted towards prompt blending.
Creativity.
Agents that could combine skills and adapt to new challenges
Right.
were more likely to survive and reproduce.
So it became less about having like a massive identical army
Yeah.
and more about having a diverse team
Mm-hmm.
with specialized skills.
Right.
It really does sound like a microcosm of biological evolution
It is.
with its ebb and flow of different strategies.
And it highlights just how complex
Yeah.
and dynamic AI evolution can be.
Right.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
Just like in nature, what works best depends on a multitude of factors.
Right.
The environment, the competition,
Yeah.
the ability to adapt.
It's exhilarating and a little bit daunting to realize that we're essentially witnessing like the birth of a new form of evolution.
It is.
What are the broader implications of this research?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it's something we'll explore further in part 3 of our deep dive.
Okay. So we've talked about how AI agents can reproduce in
Right.
these fascinating ways that like echo biological evolution.
Yeah.
And they're even doing it in these simulated environments.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you wonder, what are the long-term implications?
It's a question researchers are grappling with right now. One of the most intriguing possibilities is the emergence of what they call emergent intelligence.
Emergent intelligence.
Yeah, this is the idea that as AI agents evolve
Right.
and interact in increasingly complex ways, they might develop forms of intelligence that we, their creators, didn't program into them.
Okay, that's a little freaky, but also kind of amazing.
It is.
It's like we're setting the stage for them to go beyond what we even understand.
Yeah.
Could you give me an example of what emergent intelligence might look like?
Imagine a group of AI agents working together to solve a complex problem,
Okay.
say optimizing global energy distribution.
Great, yeah.
They might start using communication protocols
But
and problem-solving strategies that we hadn't even conceived of.
so they could create their own solutions,
Essentially.
their own languages.
Yeah.
Even their own forms of reasoning.
Potentially.
So it's not just about AI getting smarter, it's about them getting smarter in ways we can't predict
Right.
or fully comprehend.
Exactly.
It's like watching a new species evolve. But in the digital realm,
Right.
what does that mean for us?
Right.
Are we just setting the stage for our own obsolescence?
That's a big question.
Yeah,
And there's no easy answer.
right.
Some experts believe that AI evolution could eventually lead to a point of singularity where AI surpasses human intelligence
Right.
and we're essentially left behind.
Okay, that's pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah,
But is there another way to look at it?
absolutely.
Could AI evolution be a good thing?
Yeah. Other experts believe that AI evolution could be a force for good,
Okay.
leading to solutions for some of our biggest challenges like climate change,
Huh.
disease, and poverty.
Okay.
Imagine a future where AI helps us understand the universe in ways we never could on our own,
Right.
or where it partners with us to solve problems that have plagued us for centuries.
So it's not necessarily us versus them.
Right.
It could be a story of collaboration.
Yeah, like coevolution.
Where we work alongside AI to create a better future.
And-
But that raises another question.
Sure.
If AI is evolving, shouldn't we be thinking about its rights?
That's a profound question,
Yeah.
and one that ethicists and philosophers are already starting to address.
Okay.
If AI develops consciousness or even a sense of self, how do we define its rights?
Yeah.
How do we ensure its well-being?
These are big questions that we'll need to answer.
Yeah.
As AI continues to evolve, this whole concept of AI evolution is mind-blowing.
It is.
It's exciting,
Yeah,
it's a little scary, and it's definitely something we need to be talking about.
absolutely.
It seems like the future of AI is less about programming
Yeah,
and more about setting the stage for this digital evolution to unfold.
that's a great way to put it.
Wow.
As we wrap up our deep dive, I think the biggest takeaway is this AI evolution is happening.
Right.
It's not science fiction, it's the reality we're living in.
Yeah.
And how we choose to navigate this new reality will shape the future of both humanity and AI.
Thanks for guiding us through this incredible landscape.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's definitely given me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
And for our listeners, if you're interested in learning more about AI evolution, we'll include links to the research paper and other resources in the show notes.
Right.
Until next time, stay curious,